Hi, Pastor John. My name is Stephen. I'm in my first semester at TMS.
Good, Stephen.
My question to you is related to a couple of different Bible passages. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things. Romans 7, where Paul declares, wretched man that I am. My question is, are these passages describing all of humanity, including people who are New Covenant believers, or are New Covenant believers excluded from having hearts deceitful above all things, above being wretched? And I suppose if your answer is no, these aren't including believers, then how would you kind of rationalize believers who do have this mentality of follow your heart, but they seem to be going astray? And if it does include believers, then how would you encourage those of us who are maybe struggling with that reality?
Yeah, I understand. Jeremiah 17:9 is simply a commentary on fallen humanity. The heart of man is deceitful above all things. So it is a lot of things. It is a lot of things. It is only evil continually. We read Romans 3:10-20. The heart doesn't seek God, doesn't seek His glory, doesn't seek truth. And we talked about all that this morning. But above all of that, it is deceitful. So the problem with the unregenerate is that their heart lies to them. Now remember what we said this morning, that they're of their father the devil, who is a liar. And if you speak the truth, they can't relate to it. They don't believe you because it is the truth. And they're blind and dead to the truth. So Jeremiah 17 is like the other passage in Jeremiah which says, can a leopard change his spots? Of course not. Neither can you who are evil do good. So that's a simple description of the fallen state of humanity. When you get to Romans 7, it's a very different situation. Because clearly Paul is a believer. Clearly. In chapter 6, he marks out the transformation of a believer who, having been a slave to sin, has become a slave of righteousness. In chapter 7, he says, I love your law. It is holy, just, and good. Okay, that's not a non-believer. He's not deceived. The truth does not offend him. He loves the truth. It's holy, just, and good. And that is the reflection of the new creation, a principle operating in him that loves the truth and loves righteousness and loves God. But he says, I see another principle operating in my life. So now we have the definition of a believer. He is a new creation. He is no longer deceived. He sees the truth. He knows the truth. He loves the truth. He embraces the truth. But there's something else attached to him. It's another principle making war against all of that. Now, there's no war in a fallen individual. What is the war? He's deceived. He operates on lust. There's no war. But in the believer, who now is totally transformed, there is a war, and Paul explains it this way. Because there is still my unredeemed flesh. And he makes the analogy that it's like having a corpse connected to his body. In ancient times, one of the ways they punished a murderer was to attach the dead corpse to the body of the murderer. And so the living murderer was carrying around the decaying corpse attached to his own body. Paul sees that kind of picture, and so he says, I'm a wretched man. On the one hand, I want to do the right thing, but I don't do it. On the other hand, I don't want to do the wrong thing, but I do it. This is the wretchedness of the struggle of the life of the believer. And the difference, as I said, is there's no struggle for a non-believer. What is he struggling with? His will is free, only in one sense. He can pick his sin. So Paul is describing the Christian's experience. And he hates the fact that that is his experience. And that's why in chapter 8 he says, I'm waiting for the resurrection of the body when the flesh is no longer there. So as believers, we understand that battle, right? We understand that. Struggle with sin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. We're fighting the remaining sin that is in us because we haven't yet been fully glorified. And we're fighting the onslaughts of the enemy who comes at us to try to take advantage of us and lead us astray. The non-believer is one entity. The believer is a brand new creation, but he still has to deal with the remaining flesh, and that's the difference. Okay?
Thank you.